Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to Emergency Management Associates. We're coming to you from the Area Command, 392 miles west of Kitty Hawk Beach, North Carolina. Folks, we're going to dispense with the Pledge of Allegiance and the United States National Anthem tonight. I want to go directly to our program. We have a lot of information to give you within the next 30 to 40 minutes. I want to be very brief. I want to get out as much information as we can. I believe this is very important. It's something that I believe in, number one. Number two, this is factual. What I'm going to be telling you tonight is factual. Nothing more, nothing less. The first thing I want to talk about tonight is Kilauea. Nothing much has changed except we're still getting all of the earthquakes that we got just yesterday. I will explain that as we go through this introduction here. The current volcano alert status is still watch. Current aviation color status is orange. Kilauea volcano is not erupting. The Kilauea volcano is not erupting. I was going to show you some shots from the webcam at Kilauea today, but they did not let me transfer them to my software, and so I'm not going to show you those tonight. But again, Kilauea volcano is not erupting. Okay? The seismicity that's going on along the Kauai fault system southwest of the summit remains elevated, and deformation patterns, which means the ground is rising up, has not changed. It remains and still shows signs of what they call inflation, not deflation, inflation. The intrusion of magma southwest of Kilauea summit remains active. Now, what I'm going to tell you now is my opinion, and the opinion of many scientists and geologists literally watching this around the world. We believe that the volcano will erupt on the flank of Kilauea. With all the earthquakes that you see right here, we believe that there will be an eruption, but not inside the Kilauea volcano caldera. We believe that the eruption will be over on the southwestern side of the volcano, on the southwestern flank or the southwestern hill of the volcano. The deformation patterns in Kilauea at the summit remain very inflated. The intrusion of magma southwest of Kilauea summit remains active. The eruption could occur at any time with little warning, possibly within the next few days. The summit observations this morning: seismicity 5 to 7 miles downslope from Kilauea, which is 8 to 11 kilometers southwest of the caldera of Kilauea, in the vicinity of Pu'u-Kauai, which is another volcano there. Earthquakes continue at about 20 to 35 locatable earthquakes per hour. As you can see from this picture that we're showing you here, there are several hundred earthquakes already today. Within the first few hours of the day today, there were over 65 earthquakes, and now there's several hundred. Earthquakes in the summit caldera region continue at lower rates of less than 10 per hour. Depths of the earthquakes remain consistent at 1 to 4 kilometers deep, less than a mile, 2.5 miles deep below the surface, and magnitudes of earthquakes are a range maximum of 2+. 2.5 is the largest earthquakes that we've seen here around Kilauea today. 2.5. And they can be less than that to a microquake, meaning it is 0.5, 0.7 microquake. In total, early this morning, there were recorded 63 earthquakes in the caldera region during the past 24 hours. In the caldera region, meaning inside the Halemaumau crater of Kilauea. 504 earthquakes have been recorded along the Koihi fault system. Over the past 24 hours, tilt meters near Sand Hill and Ukahuna Bluff have recorded an additional 40 microradians of change consistent with the magma that's moving underneath the surface, where all these earthquakes are occurring. However, since midnight, there has been some change. Rates of change have decreased. Global Positioning System GPS instruments have recorded up to 8 inches of motion at stations around SWRZ, which is one of the seismic sites around Kilauea. If you go over to the USGS site, over to the Hawaii Volcano Observatory, you're going to see many seismic stations all around Kilauea. Some stations they are not showing for whatever reason, but other stations are definitely showing change and earthquakes happening there, and you can see those earthquakes on the seismogram. They are not necessarily reporting all of the earthquakes either. Okay? What I'm telling you, there is movement of magma beneath the surface. As I have explained here and at other volcanoes around the world, there is a magma dike pushing up towards the surface of the earth that you and I walk on. Magma is pushing up. Okay? A dike-like body, whether it's more pointed like this or not, it is a dike. They call it a magma dike. And that magma is pushing up. Like we just said a few minutes ago, we do expect an eruption. However, we do not think it will be in the Kilauea caldera area. We expect the eruption to be on the side of the volcano. The magma is pushing up through what they call a tabular body of magma through older existing rock. Sulfur dioxide, SO2 gas emissions rates remain low. Field measurements indicate SO2 emission rates of approximately 70 tons per day. 70 tons per day. That has been the same since January 17th. Similar measurements have occurred October, November, December, and even in January. Patterns of earthquakes and ground deformation continue to indicate that magma is moving beneath the surface, southwest of the summit, along the Koihi fault zone. The Koihi fault system appears as low cliffs, or what they call scarps. We talked about this last night. Those scarps are along the surface, the hill of Kilauea. These scarps connect Kilauea's east and southwest rib zones, south of the caldera and east of the caldera. As you can remember, the last time we had issues at Kilauea in 2019, the lava dropped out of the caldera, and we had a subsequent caldera collapse, meaning all that solidified rock that we had seen near the rim of the volcano collapsed deep into the volcano itself. The lava, we later learned within days later, it moved out into the southeast rib zone, over to fern forest and also later eastward into Leilani Estates. This time, the earthquakes show that the magma is southwest of Kilauea, in the southwest rib zone. At this point in time of this report, activity still remains elevated. Periods of increased earthquake activity and rates of ground deformation can be expected to continue in this region throughout the weekend. Based on historical data, this event is much more likely to continue as an intrusion, a magma dike intrusion. But there still is a possibility of it ending in a volcanic eruption. Years ago, someone, or should I say several people, called me a USGS CIA plant. Now, I want to tell you this. I have never worked for USGS. As many of you know, I've called out USGS on many occasions because of the many lies and false information and false statements that they have been spreading, and should I say also omitting information. I also have never worked for the CIA. I will never, ever work for the CIA. I want to make that very clear. Now, I want to talk about other things that are going on. I want to talk about Yellowstone. Many of you have been asking if I would talk about Yellowstone, so that's where we're going now. This is what they call a mud pot. If any of you have been over at Yellowstone, mud pots are all over the Yellowstone caldera. Many of them developed as mud pots, but they have different chemicals which change the color of the mud pots. These mud pots go deep inside the caldera. They're powered by a groundwater system just beneath the ground. And beneath that, we have hot, molten lava that is heating up that water. I'm calling it lava even though it's beneath the ground here because it's just beneath the water. It's heating up the water. In many cases, these mud pots are very hot, scalding hot, up to 7,000 degrees, or not 7,000, several thousand degrees Fahrenheit. People have scalded themselves when they've tried to walk into them. Many people have died. Grace for purposes, LOL, they say stupid stuff about me too, Ron. I just laugh. That's exactly what I did when they called me a plant. I'm the last person that they would even think of calling me a USGS or a CIA plant. Now, I want to talk about Yellowstone, and there's a reason. Many of you have asked me about it, and I've continued to tell you that there literally is no reason for anybody to believe that Yellowstone would erupt anytime soon. And we're going to talk about that right now. What you see here are minor earthquakes and tremors and also microquakes in and around Yellowstone. Let me enlarge this a little bit and I'll take you on a little tour of Yellowstone. These earthquakes that you see here are east of Hebgen Lake. This is the same location where we're back in 1959. We had a 7.1 earthquake. That 7.1 earthquake in 1959 did not, I repeat, it did not ignite the volcano. It did not ignite the volcano. But a 7.1 earthquake nonetheless. Now, there is a consensus of opinion that 7.1 earthquake in Hebgen Lake in 1959 was a lot larger, upwards of an 8.0. Buildings in this area were destroyed all over Montana. Unsupported masonry, block walls, brick walls, fireplaces, rock walls, rock fireplaces went down. Unsupported masonry was destroyed. Schools in Montana and Wyoming were destroyed. Now, there are several calderas outward from around Yellowstone. One is in Island Park, Idaho. That is a separate caldera from Yellowstone. There's also another one north of there. 3 different calderas around Yellowstone, including Yellowstone. Okay? Yellowstone caldera is large. It's a very large caldera, guys. I'm not going to try to blow smoke up your skirts. It's a very large system. The magma chamber by itself stretches from just the border of Canada all the way south to northern Utah, eastward into Montana and Wyoming, Utah and Colorado. It goes over to western Idaho, to the Chalice National Park in western Idaho. That is the size of Yellowstone's caldera. 11 Grand Canyons in size. It's huge. Now, with that said, we have had earthquakes all the way up to and including just south of the Canadian border. That's because the magma chamber goes up there. It doesn't mean the Yellowstone volcano is going to erupt. It just means that magma beneath the surface is causing those minor tremors and minor earthquakes. A minor tremor is anywhere from 1.0 magnitude on up to 1.9. A minor earthquake is anywhere from 2.0 to 2.9. Today, as you can see, these orange dots here represent seismic activity today. There have been 2 minor earthquakes, 2.0 earthquakes here near Hebgen Lake. The smaller ones are just tremors. The smaller ones are just tremors. A 2.0 earthquake west of Hebgen Lake, to the northwest side of Hebgen Lake. A 1.4 tremor, a 0.4 magnitude microquake. Southeast of Hebgen Lake that you're seeing right here, a 0.5 magnitude microquake, a 0.3 microquake. Now, besides that, let's take you over here, okay? You can see some seismic activity here between Hebgen Lake and Yellowstone Lake, okay? That is the Nease Lake and the Nease Lake escarpment. Okay? Here, this is a separate area, a completely separate area. North of Nease Creek, you see this seismic activity here. A 0.2 microquake, a 0.1 microquake on a mountain. It is a minus 0.1 magnitude microquake, meaning above sea level. Above sea level. Southeast of Nease Creek is 0.5 microquake. 3 0.1 microquakes. Then, we're going down here south of Shoshone Lake. Shoshone Lake is in the center of your screen right now, of this slide. North of Shoshone Lake, a 0.3 magnitude microquake and a 1.3 tremor. The yellow dot that you see here on this slide, over by West Thumb, Yellowstone Lake. 2.0, 2.5, on January 20th. 2.5 and a 2.0 earthquake on January 20th. South of there, we have the Pitchfork Plateau. We've had two 2.0 minor earthquakes, 5 tremors, and several microquakes in that area in January. Presently, the Yellowstone volcano is not showing any evidence of even being close to an eruption. The seismic data is showing microquakes and minor tremors and minor earthquakes 2.0 to 2.5. That data is not sufficient to even think the Yellowstone volcano would erupt. In order to have Yellowstone volcano erupt, we would need to see at least several 4.5 magnitude earthquakes in and around the Yellowstone caldera, specifically in the area of Old Faithful, Yellowstone Lake. We know for a fact that there is a magma dike underneath Yellowstone Lake. Yellowstone Lake bottom has been rising up in the past. At present, there has been ground deformation, ground sinking. That is the ground change under Yellowstone Lake. The magma dike has backed off. Now, I want to also answer a question here. Many people have asked me in emails and also private messages, is Yellowstone volcano active? It most assuredly is active. The oldest eruptions associated with the Yellowstone hotspot occurred in what is today southeastern Oregon. Those are the oldest eruptions associated with Yellowstone in southeastern part of Oregon. The most recent eruptions have been in the northeast corner of Wyoming. Yellowstone's current geological activity is limited to hot springs and geysers. Hot springs and geysers like I showed you here. The last eruption in the Yellowstone caldera, was 0.64 million years ago, implying that we are still about 90,000 years away for when we might see or might consider seeing Yellowstone overdue for an eruption. Another 90,000 years away for another caldera-forming eruption. So guys, right now it's not going to erupt. However, I also want to show you something else here. There is a danger zone, okay? A lot of people have asked me, where is safe? The kill zone, as you can see, goes up almost to Montana. That is where the hot gases, the hot toxic gases, the ash fall will hit just south of the Canadian border, over into western Idaho, southwestern and central Idaho, down over into Montana, Wyoming, northeastern Utah, and most of Colorado. This area here doesn't show most of Colorado, but I am being told that most of Colorado would be considered in the kill zone. The primary ash zone stretches all the way up into the southernmost parts of Canada. It goes out nearly consuming Idaho. It goes all the way down into northeastern Nevada, and it covers the greater part of Utah as well, and all of Colorado. It stretches out to North and South Dakota, Nebraska, over into Kansas. That is a primary ash zone. The secondary ash zone stretches all the way up into the northern reaches of Saskatchewan, Canada, and all the way over into Ontario, Canada as well, and to the west, all the way over to Alberta, Canada, and possibly into the southwestern reaches of British Columbia. The secondary ash zone goes all the way east over into Michigan, Illinois, all the way down into Missouri, Oklahoma, New Mexico, the northern part of Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, Nevada, into the area to central Oregon, and over into southeastern Washington, and all the way up into northeastern Washington. That's where we would find the most ash from an eruption at Yellowstone. Okay? Other areas not shown here would still probably have ash and would be affected by what would happen after an eruption at Yellowstone. Okay? Demon Catman is still saying, hello, Penny Salmons. Nothing to worry about for Yellowstone. Ron is just informing and updating. Don't worry. That's exactly what I'm telling you. Don't worry about it. It's not going to happen, regardless of what anybody else says. I've been studying this for a very, very, very long time. I used to live in Pocatello, Idaho, southeastern Idaho. That was a kill zone. I used to live down in Salt Lake City, which is on the which is on the south side of the kill zone. But I'm going to tell you right now, Salt Lake City will see some devastation. The biggest city in Utah would see devastation. All of Montana and Wyoming would see devastation. North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, going down into Kansas, Colorado, Utah, Nevada, Arizona, and even New Mexico would see devastation and ashfall. Okay? Richard Smith is saying, or asking, how long would it take to spread? A matter of literally hours. The primary kill zone would see almost immediate devastation. The ash zone within about 1 or 2 hours. The secondary ash zone probably within the ensuing 5 to 6 hours. Depending on the rate of the jet streams, would also depend on the rate of ashfall outside of the Yellowstone area. The jet streams would pick it up. We expect to see, when it finally does erupt, we expect to see the volcanic eruption up into the stratosphere, which is exactly where the jet stream is. And that can take the ash everywhere, literally around the world, within several days. So that's why we're talking about it. You guys asked me last night to talk about Yellowstone. That's exactly what we're doing. Now, besides that, I have more information here for you. Some of you have asked me in the past, what else is there to show when it comes to supervolcanoes? So let's talk about supervolcanoes. Over in California, east of Mammoth, we have the Long Valley Volcano. I'm showing you an area here that stretches out all over, literally all over Central East California. you're seeing the caldera of the Long Valley volcano. Yes, we have seen upwards of 3.0 to 4.0 activity, but that also does not mean that Long Valley will erupt anytime soon. We would have to have long duration earthquakes, meaning earthquake after earthquake after earthquake over a period of time. And it could be only a short period of time, depending on the number of earthquakes and the seismicity, the strength of those earthquakes, to have Long Valley erupt. We don't think that will happen. One of the other volcanoes that is in the United States, supervolcano. It's over in New Mexico. It's called the Valdese volcano. Valdles volcano in New Mexico. We're showing you the caldera here. It has not erupted in a very, very, very long time. I believe it was 2 years ago when I last talked about the Valdese caldera. I showed you up close and personal pictures of the volcanic rock that was left weathered and beaten by rainfall and snow over there in New Mexico. That is the summit, the lava pin or plug that was left over from the last time Valdese volcano erupted. California, Long Valley volcano, Valdese volcano in New Mexico, and Yellowstone are supervolcanoes. A question was asked, which volcano is most likely to erupt next? In recent months, more than 1,000 minor earthquakes have rattled the area around Campo Veligre volcano in southern Italy, stoking fears that it may soon erupt again after nearly 5 centuries. 5 centuries, folks. The last information about that went out November 1st, 2023, just 2 months ago. National Geographic also posed the question, where would it be safe if Yellowstone erupted? I just got through showing you that. Their answer was this. For the most likely type of volcanic eruption in Yellowstone, everywhere would be safe except in the immediate vicinity of the advancing lava flow. I just proved that wrong. Not even National Geographic could give a safe answer. Yes, that whole area, within at least 40 to 150 miles away from Yellowstone, is not going to be a safe area. Even National Geographic got it wrong. A supervolcanic eruption would destroy pretty much everything within a 40 to 150 mile radius. In the case of Yellowstone, pyroclastic flows would devastate the neighboring areas of Montana and Idaho as well as Wyoming. Falling ash also would affect other areas of the country. Now, briefly, I want to talk about what is going on at the border region in Texas. It's not pretty, guys. It's not pretty. We've seen pictures like this going on for months now. Almost a year now. Right now, attention is posted at Eagle Pass, Texas. It has become the main stage for the political drama, the national and international political drama over migrants crossing the border. People from the Philippines, people from Russia, people from Ukraine, people from the Middle East, including Iran and Iraq, Yemen, South Jordan, Saudi Arabia are crossing into the United States. They have been said that they are going, it has been said that they are going to Chicago, New York, and to Philadelphia. It has many residents angry and officials are worried. One woman over there in Eagle Pass, Texas, her name is Juanita Martinez. She walked up yesterday to a closed gate at Shelby Park, where the National Guard, the U.S. Border Patrol, the Texas State Police, and other law enforcement agencies from around the nation have made their ground zero. She started an argument with a Texas National Guard member. The park was closed to the public. The young soldier that she was speaking to told her why it was closed: for safety and security. Miss Martinez replied, "Safety from what?" Martinez is the chair of the Maverick County Democrat Party. The Maverick County Democratic Party. Notice who she was representing. The Democrats, the Communist Democrats of the United States. Joseph Biden opened the border shortly after he took office, within hours. And since then, migrants have been pouring into the United States, unfiltered. About half the migrants get stopped by Border Patrol, and now by the Texas law enforcement and National Guard. Only half the migrants coming in. The other half is still streaming in unfiltered. Like I've been saying in previous programs, some of these people are wearing fatigues from the military or camouflage uniforms from the military, carrying automatic weapons, rifles, and literally all kinds of military hardware with them. The Democrat Party here in the United States has allowed it to happen. Congress, the United States House of Representatives, has been attempting to impeach Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas. Yes, he's in charge of the U.S. Border Patrol and Customs Border Protection. He's being told what to do by the president. He's a figurehead. Congress is trying to remove him. Congress should be going after President Biden. Biden has it in his little finger, the opportunity to shut this border down. He can do it with the stroke of a pen. He does not need the Senate or the U.S. House of Representatives to shut down this border. However, he asked Congress a couple weeks ago to put forth a law that he could sign, that he would agree to stop so many people from coming into the U.S. That number was put at 4,000 people a day. As I stated yesterday, 4,000 people coming into the U.S. a day through the southern border would increase the population of undocumented migrants upwards of over 1 million people this year. 1 million people this year. And the Senate is now addressing that same bill. And if they approve it, they'll send it to the president's desk for signature. It would allow the president to shut down the border if over 4,000 people, 4,001 people came through the border. He could shut it down. Would he? I doubt it. I doubt it. But he would hail that legislation as groundbreaking, which is a farce. Like I said, right now, President Biden could shut the border down with the stroke of a pen. With his little finger, he could shut the border down right now. But he won't. He wants to allow these migrants to come in with the power to vote. He's given them the power to vote. In doing so, The Democrat Party hopes, by allowing all these migrants in, that they would keep the Democratic Party in power in perpetuity for years. This person, Martinez, over in Texas, said safe from what? She's one of many Democratic Party members, local people, there in Eagle Pass, Texas, that are upset and angry that their town has become the main stage for a national political drama. In December, record numbers of migrants crossed the Rio Grande, tens of thousands of them through Shelby Park. There is a 47-acre expanse of grass and ball fields off the banks of the Rio Grande River. In response, Texas Governor Greg Abbott ordered his forces, the Texas Police, all law enforcement in Texas that have decided to descend upon Eagle Pass, and also other law enforcement organizations from around this country that have now come to Texas's aid to help stem the border people from coming across. Governor Abbott ordered those forces to take over the park, mainly to deny access to the Border Patrol, which has previously used the park to process arriving migrants, but also to close the park to the public, to close the park to everyone. Now, there are hundreds of law enforcement, literally hundreds if not thousands of National Guard, armed at the border. You can see these military members there on the U.S. side of the border there at Eagle Pass. It's much stronger than that. It's way stronger than that. Here you see an armed soldier traversing the U.S. side of the border, and migrants on the other side of the fence. This is not the steel fence that President Trump had put up. This is a man-made fence. They put concertina wire on top of it. Concertina wire all over this area to prevent people from coming in. The Biden administration ordered the U.S. Border Patrol to go in there and cut it up, to allow migrants to come in any which way that they want. It has stopped the flow of migrants. And I need to also say that the U.S. Border Patrol is commending Governor Abbott for doing what he did to stop the flow of migrants. The U.S. Border Patrol is thanking him. Now, Governor Abbott is planning to use the park for yet another political purpose. He's scheduled to hold a news conference with 14 other governors on Sunday who backed him up in his standoff with the federal government, including Georgia's Brian Kemp, Iowa's Kim Reynolds. In that Democrat Party, Martinez's view, the lady that argued with the National Guard, she said Abbott's border security measures, the troops, the barbed wire, even the shipping containers that Abbott put down there, they've had to pull the shipping containers back away from the river because the river surface is rising. There's been a lot of rainfall over there in Texas, Arizona, and also California. So the Rio Grande River is rising. They've had to pull the shipping containers further back away from the river. The buoys in the river still stand to keep migrants from trying to cross by swimming. Now the water level is so high that it's too dangerous for migrants to try to even walk across it, as they had even just up to a month ago. But All this and everything else has done almost nothing to deter illegal migrants, and I'm calling a spade, illegal migrants. And December's record crossings are proof. Now, Lady Martinez, who was arguing with the National Guard member, she says it's a big scam. It's political propaganda. What is our message to Abbott? Get the hell out of Maverick County and get the hell out of our park. We don't need you here. In other words, let the migrants do whatever they want. Eagle Pass can't handle it. Their government, their facility, their town cannot handle the numbers of people that are coming across. They're literally being overrun. The farmers and ranchers outside of Eagle Pass are terrified because they're seeing drug cartels. Members of the cartel carrying drugs and automatic weapons. These members of either the Mexican army or whatever army that's coming across in military uniforms, carrying weapons. The population here in the United States is scared. Yet Martinez from the Democratic Party there in Eagle Pass wants it to continue. We don't need you here, quote unquote. Local officials in Eagle Pass have been overwhelmed on two fronts. The rising number of migrants and the state's response to those migrants. Governor Abbott and other Republicans maintain that the migration at the border constitutes an invasion. And I'm saying the same thing. This is an invasion into the United States. We probably had close to 3 million undocumented migrants from all countries around the world, from over 123 countries around the world, even Russia, and all over the Middle East. We already know that they're Middle Eastern terrorists that have come into our country. And some of those have been caught. Over 176 terrorists have been caught at the border. But how many got through unfettered without anybody knowing it? This is an invasion. One city official there, who asked not to be named because he had not been cleared to speak with the media, said the forces brought in by the governor, the National Guard troops, the officers with the State Department of Public Safety, Florida State troopers loaned by Governor DeSantis, had damaged the irrigation system of Shelby Park's public golf course by parking their vehicles on the grass. Repairs will strain the city's meager budget, according to that officials. If that's the case, that is only a small price to pay to stop what is going on. It's got to stop. Now, one of our own EMA family, Don Patoka, posted this yesterday. Governor Cox from Utah signed a bill, State Bill 57. The following statement is what he issued. Balancing power between the state and federal sovereignty is an essential part of our constitutional system. An essential part of our constitutional system. This legislation that Governor Cox signed, he said, gives us another way to push back on the federal overreach and maintain the balance. And Utah is backing Texas and telling the world and the feds, enough is enough, no more. Enough is enough, no more. That's what Governor Cox said. That's what we are saying now. And I have probably several hundred people, if not more than that, saying the same thing. Enough is enough, no more. If you are listening to this broadcast and you think you're going to cross the border, you need to think another straight thing. That thing is stay where you're at on the south side of the border. You come here illegally, you could be shot. You come here illegally, you will be deported back to your own country. If you think you're going to affect the United States, you're wrong. You will be stopped. Laura Marie's here in the chat and said the U.S. already has laws to govern the border. They just need to be enforced. That is exactly what I've been saying. That is exactly what Congress has been saying until President Biden said that he needed a bill put up by Congress. He's trying to get Congress to give him a bill to allow the president to legally allow people to still come across. Millions of people a year. That has to stop. As Laura Marie says, it has to come across that we have laws that will be enforced and legally stop this process from happening. If people want to come across into the U.S., they have to do it legally. You have to do it legally, and if you finish the process, you will have an opportunity to become a U.S. citizen, but you have to do it legally. Regardless of what Biden and the Communist Democrats say, if you are here illegally, you will not have a chance to stay here and become citizens. You will be stripped from the United States and sent back to where you came from. Okay? You will be taken back and gone. Gone. Okay? Now, I've come to the end of my broadcast. I want to give those of you time who have a link to the Zoom, have the Zoom link to watch Don Patoka's wife's funeral. I'm not going to put it up here. I don't think Don wants me to put it up here, or he would have done it yesterday. He is not available today. He is with his family preparing for his wife's funeral in another 40 minutes. So those of you that have that link, I encourage you to watch the funeral. It will be a beautiful funeral for a beautiful lady. Okay? I encourage you to watch that. Now, brothers and sisters, I love you. I love you. I know the Lord cares for each one of you. That's very apparent. One more thing. One more thing before we leave here today. I want to quote from the scriptures here. The Lord loves each one of us. The Lord has given us information how we can return to our Heavenly Father. When Peter doubted himself, when Peter the Apostle doubted himself, you can find this in Acts in the 10th chapter. When Peter doubted himself, what his vision that he had should mean. Behold, the men which were sent from Cornelius had made inquiry from Simon's house, and stood before the gate, and called and asked whether Simon, which was surnamed Peter, were lodged there. In verse 20 through 21 here, actually 19 through 21. While Peter thought on the vision, the Spirit said unto him, Behold, 3 men seek thee. Arise therefore and get thee down, and go with them, doubting nothing, for I have sent them. So then Peter said that he went down to the men who were sent unto him from Cornelius, and said, Behold, I am whom you seek. What is the cause wherefore ye are come? And they said, Cornelius, the centurion, a just man, one that feareth God and of good report among all the nations of the Jews, was warned from God by a holy angel to send for thee into his house, and hear words from thee. A man, a very strong man, politically and otherwise, called for an apostle from the Lord to visit him and to tell him of Jesus Christ, he and his family. Folks, God has given us apostles and prophets. God has given us the scriptures to know more about him and his son Jesus Christ. The scriptures are the word of God. The scriptures will help us return to God. It is up to us to listen, to read the scriptures, to listen to prophets and apostles tell us what we need to do to return to our Heavenly Father. It's just like Cornelius that called for Peter to visit him. We need to find out what God wants us to do. We need to seek him. We need to pray. We need to work out our own salvation. And when it's time, we will be drawn back into heaven to live with our Heavenly Father. May God bless us. May God be with us this day and always. God bless us all, that we might have the Spirit of God to be with us. May God bless Don and his family, and those that loved and mourned Louise, his good, great wife. We love her. We honor her this day. God be with you all. God be with you until we meet again. We will see you on the other side. Like I said, God be with you till we meet again. We will see you later. We will be back here for sure on Sunday morning at 12 noon Eastern Time with Come Follow Me, the Savior Said. Another Sunday school lesson that I will be proud to teach you. God be with you until we meet again. We will see you on the other side. Good night, everybody.